the Department of Justice has just filed a motion with the judge in the Michael Flynn case to withdraw. Let me read it to you here. Here's the motion. The government has concluded that the interview of Michael Flynn, of Mr. Flynn, was untethered to and unjustified by the FBI's counterintelligence investigation into Mr. Flynn. A no longer justifiably predicted investigation that the FBI had, in the Bureau's own words, prepared to close because it had yielded an absence of any derogatory information. The government is not persuaded that the January 24th, 2017 interview was conducted with a legitimate investigative basis and therefore does not believe Mr. Flynn's statements were material, even if untrue. Moreover, we do not believe that the government can prove either the relevant false statements or their materiality beyond a reasonable doubt. So, Katy Tur, it's interesting here. It's what Michael Flynn has been hoping for. It's a bit confusing. Essentially, the government is saying, well, he may have lied to us. We've now decided this case doesn't matter, so it doesn't matter that he lied to us. But there's still, the whole thing is bizarre. Why did he plead guilty into the first place? Why did he, more importantly, decide to become a government asset for a while? There's a lot of unanswered questions. Maybe it's connected to his son. Maybe it's connected to the deal with Turkey that he had a lobbying contract with. There's still a ton of unanswered questions here, and clearly having a different attorney general has certainly changed that prosecution with Flynn.
Oh, it changed the calculus entirely for Michael Flynn. Remember that he wanted to withdraw his guilty plea as well, but let's remind people he did plead guilty. And let's go back to the circumstances surrounding this. This was January 2017 or early 2017 when Congress and federal investigators, we now know, and other people were trying to determine the links between the Trump campaign and the Russian government. And General Flynn at the time had a conversation with I believe it was the Russian ambassador, and then he lied about it to government investigators, and that's what he pleaded guilty for. He also, according to the administration, lied to Vice President Mike Pence, and that was part of the reason why he was fired. The president has been asked about that, and he's kind of dodged that question, but ever since or in the past year and a half, 2 years, the president has gone from calling Michael Flynn somebody who lied to the vice president, somebody who needed to be fired, to somebody who was being unfairly prosecuted. And he's made some pretty overt signals that he would pardon Michael Flynn. I guess this would save him the pardoning if the case was just dropped entirely.
Right. Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.